It's Saturday once again from Nigeria's capital city, Abuja. This is live from Abuja, a show that takes you through the events that have shaped the week in Nigeria and across the world, from politics, news, entertainment, and sports. I am Ademola Lawrence. Interesting week, of course, is going to be for Nigeria as the planned protest, of course, is going to be taking shape. The federal government has been working round the clock to avert the planned nationwide protest against economic hardship. In the last 72 hours, President Bola Tinubu has met with governors under the All Progressive Congress, with traditional rulers, with clerics. This follows a meeting of the Progressive Governors Forum, where the chairman and Imo State Governor, Hope Uzodinma, invited protest organizers to discuss their grievances and find solutions, as well as the meeting between the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, with over 40 ministers on Thursday, which comes after President Bola Tinubu had pleaded with Nigerians to shelve the End Bad Governance protest slated to commence on August 1. The protest against the economic hardship organized by faceless persons has gained traction on social media and is scheduled to hold across 36 states of the Federation and Federal Capital Territory in Abuja. Joining us live in the studio is Nigerian politician and Christopher Imumolen, Accord Party presidential candidate. Of course, he's joining me live in the studio to discuss this planned protest and, of course, what are the things that we're going to be looking at as the protest is going to hold August 1st to August 10th. Thank you for joining us in the studio.
Thank you, Ademola.
So it's no news anymore. The protest is not, we call it a faceless protest. So there's a lot to be talked about. Let's look at first. This administration has done so many things so far to help cushion the effects of subsidy removal and the hardship, has come afterwards. Let's first start from that place, while the protest, because these are some of the things that the protesters are looking at, but looking at what the government has done so far in terms of removing subsidy, in terms of floating the naira, so what's your take on this before we now delve into the protest?
Okay, thank you again. We now have a government who possibly had a lot of issues at hand, and it is no more news that the economy is very harsh on the Nigerian people. Everything seems to be nosediving, despite the fact that we see that the government has proposed or has set out various plans, activated a lot of initiative. We've seen student loan, we've seen palliative being distributed, we've seen a lot of policies, and we keep seeing all these policies come up, but yet we are not seeing these policies changing statistics of things that have made life very difficult for Nigerians. Prices of food had gone up, and hardship by itself does not have, is not based on religion or ethnics, or is something that is felt by everyone. And we wouldn't say that the government is not doing the best they should do, but the truth is this: the best has not yet shown or has not yet relieved Nigeria from the reality of hardship. So if we're going to be looking at this, what Nigerians are clamoring for is that, yes, it's just like a child whose father is doing everything to make sure that they live a good life, but it's not just happening. It's not just seeing it. Cost of things are not going down. It's very difficult for you to ensure that the dollar to naira is being kept in one, it is being reduced. It seems it's a multifaceted issues that the government is faced with. And I think that is basically why Nigerians possibly are calling for this end of hardship, to see that Nigerians' life, Nigeria begin to live a life that is meaningful. Nigerians begin to live, it's like he said, let the poor breathe. We want to see that happen in our life, in the life of every Nigerian. Yeah. Okay, so,
while this is very important, let's look at, while this protest is being organized. And one of the things that the the presidency or the federal government is very skeptical of is that you can't want to have a protest and we don't know the organizers. They're faceless protests. I think one of the issues that has been raised is the fact that the protests may actually be hijacked, by the people who are organizing it. There's also a report from DSS. I think I saw that yesterday. That there are instances where probably the protests might be hijacked. What do you think? Because for us to avert what happened back in 2020, what do you think? The federal government and these faceless protesters should be doing, and especially what the federal government should be doing at this particular point.
Okay, looking at what happened during the NSAS, there was a large form of protest in the south part of Nigeria. And we saw the level of disruption. Protests that eventually lead to disruption does not actually favor anybody, even the country. It leads to collateral damage, and those who actually lose the most are the people eventually. So, in as much as Nigerians are in hardship, and I know the government is doing what they need to do, and but what is most important is that government at this time need to engage. Because one of the major tools that is being used to propagate the news of the protest itself is the social media. I will see what the president is doing, meeting with traditional rulers, religious rulers, governors, but I believe more engagement on the social media is very key. We are not seeing that happen. Look at what's the social media is being engulfed by this news, but I think we have less information on social media to actually make Nigerians know what the government is doing. Information at this critical time is very paramount. Government need to invest more in ensuring that the teeming youth, the youths who might not really have knowledge or have to know what those plans are, because when we see knowledge is very important, but the feeling of hunger is more important than knowledge itself. But there will be need for constant engagement of social media, and more importantly, when this government also started, there was also a promise of inclusiveness to make sure that everyone is carried along. I contested on that court party, and we also had that feeling that we also want to be part of this, to make sure that we build a country that everyone will be included, everyone will feel as part of. So government should also look at that angle of also extending its hand to everyone that have what it takes to come in and solve. This is our country, we have nowhere to go to, and there are other persons who possibly might not be in that party who also have what it takes to contribute in growing this. Yes, that feeling that we are all also part of this is also what is needed at this time. Yes, social media engagement and opening our arms to ensure that everyone feels included in contributing what he or she has in growing our country. I think that would help to also, I believe, reduce.
So there was also a meeting yesterday with the Inspector General of Police, and of course, the security of the nation is one of the topmost for them, and that's, of course, their concern. Where the IG is saying, I think I read, where the IG is saying that the organizers must be able to identify them, in terms of where they stay, their addresses and stuff. But that's on the side. But the concern that IG raised is very valid, But at the same time, the protest is also very valid, While the right of people is to protest, the police is to protect the protesters. How do we manage this kind of situation so that we don't have breakdown of law and order? One,
there's every Nigerian have a constitutional right to protest, but there are procedures to do that. One, like the IG rightly said, protesters, organizers of such protests should be known. They shouldn't be faceless, because when they are faceless, you then do not know the backup or the hidden agenda. And the Nigerian population might not even be aware of this. We saw what happened in Kenya, and if you go back to Kenya today, the Kenyan people by themselves might not be proud of what has happened in their country.
Exactly.
We saw what happened in Ukraine, though Ukraine is not like a protest, but when there is war, when there is meltdown, it affects every business owner, it affects every institution. It goes beyond just affecting the government in power. So it's important what the IG have said. I quite agree with that. We need to know those who are planning this protest. If, for example, I'm not satisfied with the government, I'll come out to say it. I am not satisfied. So that is because I, for one, I also own businesses in Nigeria, and I wouldn't want what happened at the NSAS where shopping mall were being looted, where businesses were being burned down, vehicles were being stopped. We lost over 2 weeks of work hour. That affects the economy. So for me, I think the IG is on the right track, and we need to do more to ensure that we not just beyond trying to look at this phase, also immediately ensuring that we look at effect that can quickly cushion the hardship of Nigeria. But that is the main purpose. Because if this hardship is not obvious, it will not be whatever plan that might be hidden will not be catalyzed. What is catalyzing the plan? I don't know. For example, the hidden plan or the hidden agenda, because we saw what happened in Kenya, and we are seeing what is about to happen in DR Congo also.
Uganda.
Yes, Uganda. These are the things. There was a particular time was it last year where it was coup that was everywhere in West Africa.
Yeah.
Now it's protest. So when federal government is saying, oh, there might be a possible thought force, exactly. It's very possible. Yeah. And nobody, if we truly love this country, and we must not just stand as maybe opposition, we also must try to defend our country, try to make sure that yes, there is hardship, but let us go the right way to dialogue, to talk to ourselves. We can end hardship, we can progress as a country without burning our country, without allowing people to hijack a good intention, and everybody's affected.
There are also in some quarters where people have said, yes, the aides of the president, they are the one talking, the president has not been able to speak to the people himself. Do you also share that sentiment that the president also needs to speak to the youth at this particular time? Of
course, it's part of crisis management. See, when the top echelon is not speaking directly to the people, it has its own negative effect. I think the president also needs to speak to Nigeria. Nigerian youth want to hear the president. I ran as the youngest president candidate. Nigerian youth want to, so we know what the Nigerian youth feels when their parent talks to them. That alone can cushion. Nigerian president should come. He's a father to everybody. We are not just seeing him as a president. He's a father. We need a president who is a father, which truly is, to come and talk to the Nigerian youth openly. You are my children. We know we are going through hard times, but these are our plan. We want you guys to give us so. This is what we are working at, and assure and reassure Nigerian youth. I believe with this communication, like I said, communication. We need more communication. If there is vacuum in crisis, believe me, you give room for propaganda, and that might eventually snowball into what is not expected. So there is need for effective communication. This is not time for people to come up and start defending or castigating. What people need now is to win the hearts of the Nigerian youth, win the heart of Nigerian people who currently might be going through hardship. Look at what's happening to school fees. Look at what's happening to cost of food stuff. Look at what's happening to, income is not increasing, yet expenditure is increasing. Sometimes I wonder, those who earn 100,000 naira salary, what they do with it at the end of the month. You see, rate of distrust, disloyalty in Nigeria economy is now at the highest, because everybody is just about survival. Everybody is about survival. So I think it's the best time for the president himself, to come out and speak to Nigeria. Whosoever might be advising the president not to come out, or maybe if you speak, or maybe this thing is being orchestrated by the opposition, I think it's a lie. It is a genuine pain of the Nigerian people, but we want to be sure that this pain is not being hijacked by whatsoever thought force interest or whatever interest that might want to use this agitation to cause disruption for. So it's a very sensitive narration that the president must look into, come out in wisdom, talk to Nigeria, and I believe Nigeria will listen to the president. And that hope is what they need. Because as if there is no hope, it's as if nobody is talking to them. Even at the darkest point of a man's life, hope can become what we look into and give us resilience not to take a negative step.
I want to ask you this. What are the other social investment program do you think that the president, the federal government can do in order to cushion these effects of hardship in the country?
Number one, it's policies that encourage investors. Look, I'm not even talking about foreign investors. I'm talking about Nigeria who is investing. For example, look at the Dangote issues that rose up the other time. A lot of employers. See, Nigerians are the first investors to Nigeria economy. If Nigeria begin to have problem in investing in Nigeria. If Nigerians are beginning to not to have trust in investing in their country, believe me, private sector still employed over 90% of the workforce in Nigeria. So we need to begin to look at policies that will encourage employers of laborers in our country. We need to look at policies that will protect their business against theft, against things that will discourage them from employing more people in their business. Is very, very important. In that way, we would have them. And again, we need to look at the short-term effect to food shortage we have in Nigeria. Yes, insecurity has really done us so much harm, and we don't have so much food. If we need to begin to look at what are the technicalities and the mechanisms we are going to put in place to ensure that Nigeria have food. What is the volume of our food bank? What do we have? For example, in Europe, some countries are experiencing famine, yet food is not scarce because they've been able to preserve food in their food bank that will last them for another 10 years. What is our policy when it comes to...
But the federal government sent, sent over 20 trucks to the different states. We're even hearing that some states have not even, shared this.
With all these things, 20 trucks is just like a drop in the ocean. I'm not saying, yeah, we appreciate that, that at least is going to take care of some. But we're talking about Nigerians being able to, by themselves, stand and feed themselves. That is it. We are a population of 200 and something million people. The 20 truck, I don't believe is going to feed up to 1% of those that are in hunger. It's good initiative. That's what government can do. But we need to begin to look at larger plans that will cut across larger numbers of people and reduce this hunger to a large extent. Why can't government begin to look at a temporary ways of opening the border and ensure that those who have invested in the same business that might be affected if border is open is given license to import those things in to temporary cushion. See, when there's a big issue, you must look at the best way to approach it. It might be a little setback, but it's just a way to just at that moment resuscitate a dying victim. So we must begin to look at this thing. Insecurity is a big issue. Farmers cannot go back to farm in some part of the country. We must begin to invest sincerely into this sector and ensure that farmers they are protected. We must begin to look at research and technology in all facets.
All right.
And that, I believe, would help.
Okay, thank you very much. Of course, it's an unending conversation. It's an unending. Let's go on a break. When we'll come back, we'll still have more for you on Live from Abuja. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
In Nigeria, almost every part of our lives is touched by the politics we play. Governance, legislative matters, the economy, security, foreign affairs, internal affairs. Have a feel as strategic plays in the political space determine how we live in Nigeria. The players, the drama, chess piece moves. Be kept informed. Watch analysis of major happenings in the political space and how it affects you. Watch Politics on Sunday.
Nigerians will experience a hike in airfares as the Nigeria Airspace Management Agency has raised and en route navigation charges from 6,000 to 18,000 and 54,000 per flight, just as the Airspace Agency equally increased the extension of hours of service to airlines from 50,000 naira to 450,000 per extension to enable the agency recover the cost of diesel and other logistics during the period of extension. NAMA and Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority charges. The implication of the action, which NAMA took to cushion its high cost of airspace surveillance and security, could further lead to astronomical increase in domestic airfares and, by extension, fares on international routes. I still have with me, of course, my guest here, Chris Imumolen. We're still talking about something else, and NAMA is coming out to say there's going to be there's could be a possible increase in it.
Yeah. So you see, this is a part of what we are saying. We are in a season where I think government need to call all agencies together and say, please, we must do all it takes to ensure that we do not add to the hardship of Nigeria. I know there might be legitimate reason to wanting to do this because there are root causes for most of this. Number one is the fact that the fuel subsidy was removed. Yes, even in my manifesto, I also said that we're going to remove fuel subsidy. But it is clear, 100% clear, that Nigeria still run a locomotive economy. As in, we are still running an industrial age economy because we lack power to a large extent. So fuel by itself is still more like driving a primary factor to everything that happens in Nigeria. At this point, it's therefore important that the government need to come to the realization that our economy runs on fuel utilization. Government must begin to take a very proactive step to ensure that the concept of subsidy is looked into again and possibly revisited. Because the primary aim of every government is to reduce hardship on its people. So for whatsoever reason, once the people are feeling hardship and is increasing, you know, if you look at almost, a little bit there, all the riots that we've had, from the Aba women, the Abeokuta riot, the SAP riot, they were all about tax increment. We need this to be removed. But it was about hardship. So we must look at it. There might be genuine reasons for this. We're in a very hard time. But government must look at this situation and try its best not to ensure that Nigeria is faced with more hardship. In what sector? That is very important.
You know, just on the last note, let's look at NAMA is saying this is very critical for them at this time because the cost of those roads are astronomically going high. So at the same time, you are saying government should come in, but government on the other side is not also meeting NAMA at the middle point. How do we now, you know, get through that part?
The NAMA is government. It's not an agency of the government itself. So we must. In other countries, there are things that are still subsidized. You know, in as much as we know we have a government who is looking at increased revenue generation to ensure that we have more money, but it must be done in pari passu to ensure that hardship is not. This would astronomically increase the cost of flights all over Nigeria. The cost of domestic flight. We will begin to see cost of flight compared to international flight in Nigeria soon. How many persons would be able to afford this? It will by itself have an indirect effect on the cost of products. Now we have inflation, we have cost of food item gone skyrocketed. And what I'm saying is this, it will further increase hardship. And whatever it is, we need to sit on a round table and look at this is the cost of jet fuel, it's the cost of maintenance, and okay, how do we come in as government to ensure that for now, while we are trying to resolve these issues of hardship, we should not add more to it that will make it difficult to resolve. That is what I am saying. So whatever NAMA has come to, imagine increasing from 2,000 to 8,000, from 6,000 to 50,000, it's an astronomy. Even if there must be increment, this must be properly looked into.
Thank you very much, Professor Chris Imumolen, Accord Presidential, of course. And tomorrow is Accord Convention.
Yes, tomorrow.
Interesting. Okay, let's see how that is going to pan out. Let's move straight to headlines now. The federal government to avert nation-wide